Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Chavruta sessions live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg of the Noahide World Center. Excellent series we've been doing of late. We're on lesson 12 of the Kuzari. Beautiful session for sure. I look forward to hearing the rabbi's input for sure. So let's just jump right in and say hello to the rabbi. Shalom, Rabbi. Where did you go?
Hi, I'm here.
Nope, there you are. Yeah, it's just
Hey.
with people clicking in. They always jump up on my screen. But yeah, Rabbi, we're going to turn the class over to you. I look forward to hearing your insights on today's lesson.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you, Dan. Good evening, everybody. Good to see you all. And I'm sorry about Jacob. I had unexpected issues. Never mind. Good to see you all. Good night. Now we need to finalize a few things tonight with the learning, but I'm also open for questions. So if there will be some questions at the end of this of this uh, learning, it's okay. It's fine. Feel comfortable. One of the most important things that we have in the Hebrew tradition is to ask questions. By the way, if you look for a moment on the Kuzari book, it's all the time questioning, answering, questioning, answering. Okay, so it's very important. As more that you will ask, more that you will know. Remember this rule. Okay, it's not if as more that you ask, so you don't believe enough. No. As more that you will ask, more that you will knowledge, and more that you will know, and you will be able to deal with yourself, with life, with everything else. So let's jump straight ahead to the Kuzari. We still have something to finalize in on lesson 11, I think. Let me see. Yes, lesson 11 from 102. Okay, after the Kuzari explained that God taught Moses and his people, okay, how exactly to get connected with God. Now we have in 101 and 102 and 103, we have a very important question and answer. So please, if it's okay, we read the question and then we'll read the answer.
Right. Yeah, 102. El Kuzari says, would it not have been better or more commensurate with divine wisdom if all mankind had been guided in the proper path? Very pressing question for everybody. We get this often dealing with social media. Everybody seems to think, it's all available to them. But the rabbi responds, he responds, point one, the lineage of prophecy. Or would it not have been best for all animals to have been reasonable beings? Thou hast apparently forgotten what we said previously concerning the genealogy of Adam's progeny, and how the spirit of divine prophecy rested on one person, who was chosen from his brethren and the essence of his father. It was he in whom this divine light was concentrated. He was the kernel, whilst the others were shells with no share in it. The sons of Jacob were, however, distinguished from other people by godly qualities, which made them, so to speak, an angelic caste. Each of them, being permeated by the divine essence, endeavored to attain the degree of prophecy, and most of them succeeded in doing so. Those who were not successful strove to approach it by means of pious acts, sanctity, purity, and intercourse with prophets.
So we have here, first of all, something that we spoke about. It's not the first time we're speaking about this thing. And I think that also I'm saying this more than once. The Torah is starting with Adam, and also his wife came from him. So at the beginning, they were all prophets, I will say it like that. Okay, Adam was a prophet. He spoke with God. But something happened along history that humanity lost it a bit. And this is where we have some stages, I will call it like that. Now, the stages are not saying that someone is better than someone else. The stages are saying that there are those that God is speaking with, and they are, we'll say, the messengers for the world. And there are those that are getting or receiving the words of God and the message of God through those people. It's just like, I'm saying it's the same if we say about, for example, the pilots. Okay, the pilot of the airplane. You go inside of the airplane, and today with all of the restricted areas, whatever it is, we're not allowed to go to the pilot. Now he's not a better person than anybody else on the airplane. I will tell you a secret. He's going to the toilet like everybody else. Okay, but what he does have the skills, the abilities he learned. Okay, he is with the environment of those who are flying the airplane. Fair enough. Does it bring him to become a better person? No, it's bringing him to become much more responsible person when we all flying on the airplane. Okay, but when we're going down for the airplane, we are all the same. And this is the message of the Hebrew nation. You will become a holy nation that is going to teach the world, who is going to be the liaison. You know the word, the liaison? The connection between God and the world. And this is why Moses spoke with the Hebrew people through the Hebrew language. This was the language that the Hebrew people spoke. And the Torah was given in the Hebrew language. But it's not continuing here. It's not finishing here, we'll say. Okay, let's read part number 2, please.
Part 2, spiritual benefits of prophecy. Know that he who converses with a prophet experiences spiritualization when he listens to his oration. He differs from his own kind in the purity of the soul, in a yearning for the higher degrees and attachments to the qualities of meekness and purity. This was a manifest proof to them and a clear and convincing sign of reward hereafter.
Now we're going in a moment to go inside, to dive inside to the world to come. But before that, there's something that we need to remember. Okay, if you will go to and you will read Kings, for example, when Elijah is going up to heaven. After that, I will say, the Muslims will imitate that, and they will say that also their prophet went on the horse up to heaven, just like Elijah. Fair enough. I'm not going to if it wasn't. Elijah went on some sort of horses and carriage, fire horses and carriage up to heaven. But on his way going to the Jordan River and to pass the Jordan River and to join this journey to God, he had with him the person that was all the time with him. Okay, we're speaking about after Elijah we had Elisha. Okay, the prophet Elisha, and the Bible is describing that everywhere that Elisha came with Elijah, okay, with Eliyahu, they said to him, all the prophets around, you know that today your master is going up to heaven. So it was some sort of a different environment, that it wasn't for only one person with himself, and he said that to everybody, I saw God, or something like that. It was something that was related with the people around there in the era, in those times. And this is what he's saying here. People were very, very much connected with those prophets. Some of them became also prophets. It was conjunction, it's like the virus of the corona, okay, went from one to each other with a lot of work, okay, but it was moving from one person to another person, from a group to another group, those who were working in those ways, and they were all in the same, I will say, mindset of something different, something else, the prophecy, the relation with God. Let's finalize with the words that would move us to the world to come, please, the third part.
Point 3, the path to immortality. For the only result to be expected from this is that the human soul becomes divine, being detached from material senses, joining the highest world, and enjoying the vision of the divine light, and hearing the divine speech. Such a soul is safe from death, even after its physical organs have perished. If thou then findest a religion, the knowledge and practice of which assists in the attainment of this degree, at the place pointed out and with the conditions laid down by it, this is beyond doubt the religion which ensures the immortality of the soul after the demise of the body.
Where is the place or the main place of being connected with God? The Israel state, Jerusalem, all the Judah and Samaria. Why do you think the Arabs are fighting us on this specific place? Okay, where is the timing? The timing is the specific days. Okay, like the Shabbat, like the Yom Kippur. There are specific days that it's much more close to get connected with God. And this way, and this path, I will call it like that, of behaving in this way that God is guiding us, is bringing us that also when a person is finishing his life here in this world, he is not vanishing. He is getting connected with the source of life. Because all of the days that he worked here, he was related with God. This is what is basically bringing us to the world to come. Now, it's not only for the Jews, okay? The Jews have, I will say it like that. It's like, having being connected with the source of the electricity. When you work in the place where there are the manufacture of the electricity, it's a very dangerous place. You need to be very careful, because if you will get close too much to some places, you might get the electricity shot. So you need to be very careful. When you go away from the electricity, I will say manufacture, okay, where they're spreading the powder of the electricity. So this is much easier to live outside in those places. But how to use the electricity, how to use it in the right way, you need the guidance of those who are creating the electricity. It's something similar is happening with this thing of spirituality and the presence of God, the relation with God. In Israel, especially in the times with the nation of Israel and everything, it's like, working inside the manufacture of the electricity, of the source of life. When you go outside, as more as you're connected with the Israeli people, you're getting more connected with life and with the world to come. As more that you're getting disconnected, what's happening to you? You're getting disconnected. Okay, what's happening to a machine that is going out from the electricity? It's not working anymore. Okay, you need to be connected with this electricity. So we're sending strings all over the world to speak, to explain everything. I had a very amazing question this morning. Not this morning, this afternoon. I had a meeting, an unexpected meeting with a group of people from South Korea. Okay, a group of Noachites in South Korea. I was starting to look for and this is about, by the way, why we didn't have the possibility of having the meeting this today. Okay, and they're asking a lot of questions, but one of the most important questions that usually we're getting from people in the beginning is why the Hebrew nation didn't spoke in the last 2,000 years about the Noachite. There was in the era of King Solomon, and suddenly now in the last 30 years, everybody is speaking about the Noachite movement, and we have more and more people. What happened in this era, in this time in between? In this time in between, we were trying to survive the exile, where everybody tried to kill us or to move us from one place to another place. We were not in our place in Jerusalem, in Israel, and we tried to survive. That's it. Nobody listened to us also. It was in both ways. We were only working or trying to survive, the environment of a very against us area, okay? And on the other side also, because of Christianity and because of this mindset that there was, nobody really wanted to listen to us. What happened in the last 75 years ago, 76 years ago, that the Hebrew people did a redemption, not for themselves, as an individuals. They did a redemption of a nation. A nation did redemption. And this is something that everybody's starting to say to themselves, okay, let's learn what is the secret ingredients inside the Hebrew nation that they can do a redemption. And it's giving the hope to the world that all of the world will be able to do a redemption, not only few individuals here and there. And this is where suddenly people are starting to listen to us. And we also have the, I would say, the ability, the time, the presency with ourselves, or that we're not feeling all the time stressed. I'm not speaking about this year. Okay, now we have in the last 8 months, 10 months, a very hard war. I don't know if you've heard, but there was a terror attack that came from Lebanon and killed something like 11, 12 kids, okay, from the ages of 12 till the age of 16, who played in the playground, okay? By the way, they were not Jewish. They were, we have more people, not only Jewish people in the Hebrew state. You can live here with a very good dignity, or with a very good honor in Israel, okay? And they got killed. But so in the last 10 months, we have again a bit of a fight. But even though we can find the time, and we can find, I will say, with ourselves, the possibility of giving or expressing what we have to say. So this is what we saw here. I finalized here things that we didn't learn last week because we had the time for the questions, and it's moving us. It's sending us to the next part, that is the discussion about the world to come. So let's see for a moment. I'm jumping now to the next, to the last part, number 12. Okay, and let's see for a moment few words about this. Okay, and first of all, say the discussion between 104 and 109 until 109, please. Done.
Okay, the nature of Jewish promises and their connection to divine closeness. 104. Al-Kuzari says, the anticipation of other churches are grosser and more sensuous than yours. The rabbi responds, they are none of them realized till after death, while during this life nothing points to them. Al-Kuzari says, maybe. I have never seen anyone who believed in these promises desire their speedy fulfillment. On the contrary, if he could delay them 1,000 years and remain in the bonds of this life, in spite of the hardship of this world, he would prefer it. And that's the case there, the state of every other religion. The rabbi says, what is your opinion concerning him who witnessed those grand and divine scenes? And Al-Kuzari says that he no doubt longs for the perpetual separation of his soul from his material senses. To enjoy that light, it is such a person who would desire death.
And that's it. It's enough. Okay. There are two main points here. Okay. That he's stating. Rabbi Yehuda Levi. Again, see, it's a question and answer, question and answer. Again, I'm saying the technical way of learning is by asking questions. First of all, before I'm going inside to the content of this discussion. And point number one that he's saying, okay, I'm not seeing any of those other I'll say trying to. I'm not speaking about the Arabs today. Let's not speak about them. I'm speaking about this the string of the Arabs that is doing the jihad, who prefer to die. I'm not speaking about them. Okay. There's something a bit unique. I won't go inside to this. It's also something that we can speak about, but not tonight. Okay, but he is speaking about normal people, normal, I will say, priests who prefer to live for 1,000 years and not to die, even though in the world to come they're going to get, whatever it is. It's a true thing, true point. I will say it like that. So this is point number one. And the second point that he is saying, he is asking, what do you think will happen? What do you think happened to those people, to those Israelites who stood on Mount Sinai and saw this big, Almighty God speak with them? What will be your answer? Please try to write down for a moment. What will be your answer? Let me stop the share screen before we go inside. Those people who saw, I'll say the fire, the clouds, leading the Israelites, saw the miracle of the sea, okay, where the Israelites went passed inside the sea and the Egyptians died. Then they saw the manna, and then they saw also this big event of the Ten Commandments. What do you think a normal person would like to do after those things? Write down, write down. Fear of God. Okay, let me see inside. Okay, fear of God. To be close to God as much as possible, connected with the divine, repent. They won't leave it all through their lifetime. All the things that you said are very right, and some of them also are written down in the Bible. Okay, that is brought them fear and whatever it is. I want to show you something, another something amazing. Okay, and this is, I will say, the opening statement for what we're going to learn in the Kuzari in a moment. Okay, so let me share the screen again, and let me jump to the Exodus. Let me jump to Exodus. Wait, it's not working. Why not? Let me jump to Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20, this is where we have the Ten Commandments. Okay? Ten Commandments. Let's see for a moment how, after the Ten Commandments, what the people of the Israelites are saying. Please read verses 15 and 16.
Exodus chapter 20, verse 15 and 16. And all the people saw the voices and the torches, the sound of the shofar and the smoking mountain, and the people saw and trembled, so they stood from afar. 16. They said to Moses, "You speak with us, and we will hear, but let God not speak with us, lest we die."
Some of the things that you wrote here is that they want to be very connected with the divine. So maybe they want to die. They want to be connected with the divine. This is not what the Hebrew people want to do. After they got connected with God, they realized that they're supposed to stay alive here and to bring the presence of God to their world, with all of the tiny details of how to behave in this world, to bring the divine to the reality of life. Now let's read for a moment. Now let's start to read, okay? This 109, that is a very important paragraph. It's not short, but please, let's read it, please. Let's start. First of all.
Forgive me, Rabbi, I'm getting all kinds of, I'm over-connected with social media, and I'm getting bombarded a little bit. Okay, 109, Promises of Judaism. Now that all our promises all imply is that we shall become connected with the divine influence by means of prophecy, or something nearly approaching it, and also through our relation to the divine influence as displayed to us in grand and awe-inspiring miracles. Point 2, promises. Sorry.
Just a moment. First of all, the first point that we need to say that we want to get connected with the divine. We want to get connected with God. God is something, the Almighty, who created this world, and we can do this with all of the miracles, with everything else, with the prophecy. And now go to the second point, and it's a very, very essential point. Please.
All right. Promises versus afterlife. Therefore, we do not find in the Bible, "If you keep this law, I will bring you after death into beautiful gardens and great pleasures." On the contrary, it is said.
Read 3, and then I will explain, please.
Closeness to God in the Holy Land. Yeah, so it's not about fulfillment of sensual desires. point 3, closeness to God in the Holy Land. You shall be my chosen people, and I will be a God unto you, who will guide you. Whoever of you comes to me and ascends to heaven is as those who themselves dwell among the angels, and my angels shall dwell among them on earth. You shall see them singly or in host, watching you and fighting for you without your joining in the fight. You shall remain in the country which forms a stepping stone to this degree, the Holy Land. Its fertility or barrenness, its happiness or misfortune depend upon the divine influence which your conduct will merit, whilst the rest of the world would continue its natural course. Wow.
If you will compare this, for example, with the Quran, the book of the Islam, right? It says there that the best thing is after this world that you will get a lot of a lot of meat and a lot of women. Okay, I don't understand how they're saying this, but never mind now. No, the Torah is not speaking about the world to come. In the Torah, you won't find in the Torah discussions about the world to come. You will find in the Torah how much God is going to be present inside you, inside the Hebrew nation, how the blessings is going to be with you, and from you it's going to spill over to all over the world. And the behavior that will happen to you in this world is related with your behavior. Okay, the presence of God is related with your behavior. We're not speaking about the world to come. It's not that we don't believe in the world to come. We do believe. There are a lot of hints inside the Bible about the world to come. But this issue, or this, I will say, discussion about the world to come will suddenly appear in the history of the world only after the exile of Babylon. Before that, the Hebrew nation as a nation sat down in Israel, and they didn't spoke about this because the main thing was how to live here with the presence of God. We want to bring the presence of God to our deeds here in this world. With our behavior, when we behave in the right way, presence of God is with us here, and then we have blessings, and we can also spill over this blessing to all of the world. It's a different way of thinking with everything. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, the divine signs on earth, please. Number 4.
Number 4, divine signs on earth. For if the divine presence is among you, you will perceive by the fertility of your country, by the regularity with which your rainfalls appear in due seasons, by your victories over your enemies in spite of your inferior numbers, that your affairs are not managed by simple laws of nature, but by the divine will. You will also see that drought, death, and wild beasts pursue you as a result of disobedience, although the whole world lives in peace. This shows you that your concerns are arranged by a higher power than mere nature.
Let's read it down. I can show you. Let's jump for a moment. You see my screen now with the Torah, right? Yes. You can see my screen with the Torah. If we go, for example, to just a moment, let me move. Here it is. If we go, for example, to Leviticus, okay, what we call Vayikra. Let's go to Leviticus. Let's see that I didn't. No. Come on. Go. Not this one, the next chapter. You see, let's read for a moment from 3 till the end of 6, please.
Leviticus chapter 25. Verse 3, if you follow my statutes and observe my commandments and perform them, I will give your rains in their time, the land will yield its produce, and the tree of the field will give forth its fruit. 5. Your threshing will last until the vintage, and the vintage will last until the sowing. You will eat your food to satiety, and you will live in security in your land.
6, also 6, please. And all 6 and 7.
And I will grant peace in the land, and you will lie down with no one to frighten you. I will remove wild beasts from the land, and no army will pass through your land. 7. You will pursue your enemies, and they will fall by the sword before you.
Everything is starting with I will say, with a condition, okay, that you shall keep my, so you should follow my statutes and observe my commandments. So it's not related with what's happening in the rest of the world. And this is exactly what the Kuzari is saying. This is, I will say, the divine signs on earth with us, that it's not related with the laws of nature. It's related with something else, with God, with his presence in this world. Let's continue on to 5, 6, and 7. And just, it's very important for me to finalize this issue. And then I will give also time for questions. Please, 5, 6, and 7.
Okay, point 5, promises and laws. All this, the laws included, is closely connected with the promises, and no disappointment is feared. 6, the basis of promises and closeness to God. All these promises have one basis, the anticipation of being near God and his hosts. He who attains this degree need not fear death, as is clearly demonstrated in our law. 7, the parable of the relationship between Israel and God. The following parable will illustrate this. One of a company of friends who sought solicitude in a remote spot once journeyed to India, and had honor and rank bestowed on him by her king, who knew that he was one of these friends, and who had also known their father, former comrades of his own. The king loaded him with presents for his friend, gave him costly raiment for himself, and then dismissed him, sending members of his own retinue to accompany him on his return journey. No one knew that they belonged to the court, nor that they traveled into the desert. He had received commissions and treaties, and in return he had to swear fealty to the king. Then he and his Indian escort returned to his companions and received a hearty welcome from them. They took pains to accommodate them and to show them honor. They also built a castle and allowed them to dwell in it. Henceforth they frequently sent ambassadors to India to wait upon the king, which was now easier to accomplish, as the first messenger guided them the shortest and straightest route. All knew that traveling in that country was rendered more accessible by swearing allegiance to his king and respecting his ambassadors. There was no occasion to inquire why this homage was necessary, because it was patent that by this means he came into connection with the monarch, a most pleasing circumstance. Now these companions are the children of Israel. The first traveler is Moses. The latter travelers are the prophets, whilst the Indian messengers are the Shekinah and the angels. The precious garments.
Yes. Okay, please continue.
The precious garments are the spiritual light which dwelt in the soul of Moses on account of his prophetship, whilst the visible light appeared on his countenance. The presents are the 2 tables with 10 commandments. Those in possession of other laws saw nothing of this, but were told, continue in obedience to the king of India as this company of friends, and you will after death become the associates of the king. Otherwise he will turn you away and punish you after death. Some might say, no one ever returned to inform us whether after death he dwelt in paradise or hell. The majority were satisfied with the arrangement which coincided with their views. They obeyed willingly and allowed themselves to entertain a faint hope, which to all appearance was a very strong one, as they commenced to be proud and to behave haughtily towards other people. But how can they boast of expectations after death to those who enjoy the fulfillment already in life? Is not the nature of the prophets and godly men nearer to immortality than the nature of him who never reached that degree?
First of all, the story that he is bringing, okay, the parallel, the example that he is giving, I want to remind us all that in those days, India was a very, very far behind all the Himalaya mountains, very something that you can't really reach. So this is the example that he's giving. But the idea of going, somewhere very far away, very far, not only in a distance, but also with I will say, with a mindset that we have, and he's coming back and giving us things from there. Nobody really came back from the world to come. Okay, nobody really came back after death. We don't really have someone that really 100% got, we defined him as a dead person, God forbid him, okay? And he came back and told us what's happening there. But Moses did something that we know, I will say it like that, not what is happening after death, but we know how to bring the presence of God here, because he gave us, I will say, he was the liaison, he gave us those points. The last point that I want to mention today, okay, this is 110, it's very important because it's showing, again, one of the biggest differences between the Hebrew tradition and the other two religions, I will call it like that, okay, and the way of accepting on ourselves the belief. So please read 110, and then I will summarize, and we'll manage to continue to speak few things, please.
All right. 110. Kuzari says, it does not agree with common sense that when man perishes, body and soul should disappear simultaneously, as is the case with animals, and that the philosophers alone will, as they believe, escape. The same applies to the statement made by believers in other faiths, that man, by the pronunciation of one word alone, may inherit paradise, even if during the whole of his life he knew no other word than this, and of this did not even understand the great significance. That one word raised him from the ranks of a brute to that of an angel. He who did not utter this word would remain an animal, though he might be a learned and pious philosopher who yearned for God all his life.
So the question is not if you have a word that you're saying, and because of that you're getting under the state of believer, or the most important thing is to learn what is to believe, to learn what is faith, or what we call this in Hebrew emunah, and it's a much better word, okay, not faith. What is emunah? Yes, there is in Hebrew, in the Bible, there is a tzaddik be'emunato yichyeh. The righteous will live in his belief. The belief is something that is giving us a lot of, I will say, life. It's bringing insight to us life. In the Hebrew tradition, and now, first of all, I will explain about this paragraph 110, that it's not working through a word that you say and that's it. No, it's something that you learn along with your life, and you're managing to bring it to life, okay? to the presence of your behavior. The truth is that the word emunah, what we call faith, okay, but it's not the right word in English, and it was spoiled, this word, in the Christianity. What we call emunah, it's going both ways. One way is that I'm seeking inside me, I will say, every person is seeking inside himself the God spark that is inside with him. Every one of us is being created with the image of God, and this is something that is connecting me with God. But there's also another way of understanding emunah, faith, okay? And this is that God believes in us. Every morning when we wake up, the first sentence that we say in the Hebrew language is, thank you, God, for believing in me and giving me another day in this world. So it's also going on, not only that I'm searching for my connection with God, my string with the electricity, okay, with the bringing here life in the presence of God in this life, but also that He believes in me. God also believes in the person. This is why a lot of times what I'm saying, what I said to young students who came to me and said, "But I don't believe in God." I said to him, "Never mind, it's okay, but God believes in you." Okay, and you're still alive. And it's very important to realize that. And this is part of the things that we've learned here. Now, I will say a few words as a conclusion, and I have some sort of a request, and then I have time for discussions, whatever you want. Everything is open, okay? In the next coming 3 weeks, I'm not available on Sunday nights, okay? Unfortunately, I'm not available on Sunday nights, and we will do a break now, okay, in the next coming 3 weeks. But I have, if you're asking me, and Tiferet and me are going to do that, I have a request to do, okay? The request is that you will try, each one of you, okay, to sit down and to write. It's not supposed to be more than, 1 page. Try to write it in English, but you can write it also in your language, because we have today the Google Translate, whatever it is. What are the main points that you took from the sessions that we've learned in the Kuzari? We've learned the first, I will say, essay of the Kuzari. And the first essay is concentrating, I will say mainly, it's concentrating on the history, okay? And it's very it's very similar to Genesis. Genesis is also speaking about the history. I will say it like that. There's also some things there inside that are related with the Exodus, but mainly it is speaking about I will say the history and how the world started. But we've learned a lot of things, and everything is also on the records, and you can go back and with the things that you wrote and everything else. I promise, okay, on my side, that everyone that is going to write to us his, I will say, experience, his feelings, his, whatever he got from these sessions, okay, we will, on the personal level, we will react. We will give him a feedback, okay. Maybe never mind, you will see it, okay. We'll give him also feedbacks. This writing is one of the ways of becoming not only a passive listener, and I tried very much a lot of times also to ask you questions inside that you will give answers, okay? Not to stay only passive, but that you will grasp it inside yourself in a much more profound level. And you will find that there are a lot of new things. You can also discuss it with your peers. If you're learning with Chavruta, some of you are learning with Chavruta, I know that, okay? Try to find the main, I will say, 3-4 points with yourself that you gained, that changed you, okay, in this journey that we had in the last 3 and something months. So over 12 sessions, it's almost 3 months, yes, that we had. I know that we're not going to meet on Sunday night. I will continue with the messages, okay, with the emails. And after that, we'll come together again, we have on not September, on October, we have the big holidays of the Hebrew nation. Hopefully till then we'll finish with the fight, with the war, whatever it is. But we'll come back together. I will give the dates, everything on the email. You will, we're not getting separated, okay? We're just one click away, one from each other. But this is my request. In the next coming 3 weeks, I'm not available. I'm in other issues all totally. I forgot altogether. Not 100. I'm not 100% with my schedule. So with this thing, and okay, it's good also to do from time to time a break and to adjust the things and to learn them. So I finished what I have to say for tonight. I'm here for questions. I know that Bart sent me a question. In a moment, I will find it also, and I will refer to the question about. But except for that, please, if someone have any questions or something, it's the time. Feel comfortable, please. Not everybody together. Yes, please. No one have any questions. Fair enough. Okay, so you know everything already. I told you, please ask questions. This is the way of learning. Yes, no, it's okay. If you don't have, you don't have. Very silent. Everybody's very silent today. What are you surprised? What's happening?
Ali's got her hand up.
Yes, please.
Hello, Rabbi. I would like to ask, what is Shekhinah? Shekhinah mentioned here in the part 110, 109.
Yeah, the Shekhinah is being mentioned here a few times. Okay, it's not the same, I will say, explanation of Christianity. And then the word Shekhinah in Hebrew is to be among. To be among. Okay, I want to be among people. So I'm saying, Ani shochen itam. I'm being with them. Shekhinah. Okay, to be among people. The word among is Shekhinah, to be connected, okay? And the main thing of, I will say, of the creation is that there will be relation between man and the divine, that the divine will put his presence, the Shekhinah, inside the human being on the personal level and on the national level. Okay, the community level, not only the private level. Okay, the main way of that is through the prophecy, and the prophecy is also part of the ways that God is getting connected with men. What is the difference between? So first of all, I answered you about the Shekhinah. Okay, what is the difference between? And this is one of the things that we've learned here. Okay, what is the difference between what is the difference between the Hebrew nation and the rest of the people, or the rest of the, I will say, the faiths that we have? In the Hebrew tradition, everything was happened in front of the full nation. Think about this for a moment, and it's also one of the things that we've learned. Think about this for a moment. For 40 years, not one day, not 2 days, not 1 month, not 2 months, not 1 year, not 2 years. For 40 years, people lived in the deserts, and every morning there was manna. Tell me any other religion that is saying something like that. Now, you can't invent something like that. Okay, it's not working. You can't go and say that there is a nation with 600,000 adults between the age of 20 to 60. So we're speaking that there are much more kids, and they have also the wives, they have also girls, in the same way. So we're speaking about something like 3 million people. You can't say that for 40 years, okay, they ate this miracle manna, and it's something that they invented between themselves to say to the world. It's impossible to think of something like that, right? But it's something else. It's a different, it's like it's two different, I will say, dimension. Okay, all the other different, I will say, religions are speaking maximum that Jesus did some sort of a miracle in front of his students. Fair enough. We say here that for 40 years, a full nation ate manna, okay, every morning. You can't invent something like that. The same thing, by the way, with the Ten Commandments and the the Mount Sinai event, okay, that happened in front of all of the people. And all of them started to say, I've heard the same thing. Spoke with the neighbors, or they said, heard the same thing. All of them heard about the Ten Commandments and explained everything. But I've heard the same. You heard the same. Everybody heard the same. You can't invent something like that. Everybody is. There will be people there that will say you crapping me. But I've heard this also. Everybody heard it. You're saying that you crapped you, but you also heard it. Yes, I heard it also. So this is maybe, it was one event, but go to the manna, for example. Go to the opening of the sea. Go to the cloud and the pillar of fire that led the people for 40 years. It's not, it's not one event. Now, till today, we are holding once a year this night that we went out from Egypt. It's not me, okay? I'm going to a Jew, okay, who lived, in Yemenite, and a Jew who lived in Russia, two different places of the globe. And on the same night, they're doing the same thing because the parents told them that it happened, and their parents also told them. It's not something that you can invent, with yourself. It's a different thing. All of the rest of I will say, if you speak about, I can go inside to the evangelist or whatever it is, okay? But they are all things that they promising, saying, speaking, but they're not speaking about the full nation, so that lived it in a way that they can pass it on to the kids. I will say another thing. The idea that men have freedom of choice is coming mainly because the Hebrew nation did this big event of going out from Egypt. The word Egypt in Hebrew is also the boundaries, okay? Mitzrayim, Meitzarim. Egypt is boundaries. In the old world, it was clear that you can kidnap people and use them for what you need. If you will kidnap girls, they will be your slaves for everything that you want. If you will kidnap boys, they will be your slaves. And in the old days, if someone was a slave, go to the Huckleberry Finn story, okay, for example, in the Mississippi, in the United States, okay? If you will be a slave, that's it. You won't be able to go out from it. And the only reason why the world today is believe that there is a freedom of choice is because the Hebrew people had some sort of experience in their life of taking out the boundaries from the Egyptians and going out. Now, it didn't happen to one person or to one tribe or to a family. It happened to few million people who went out. It's an event, I can give something similar. You know what, something similar? We all know that 80 years ago, the United States bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? With the atomic bombs. Now, we saw pictures. But the world today is with some sort of a fear from the atomic bomb, because it's something that happened in the world. So today, we all have some sort of fear that there won't be a nuclear, war between us, right? Why? Because it happened not to two people on the side there. It's something that it's very inside the world because of some sort of experience that the world had. The Hebrew people is holding, I will say, the experience of freedom of choice, managing to go out from the boundaries from Egypt. It's a tricky word, okay? Egypt in Hebrew is boundaries. The Hebrew nation as a nation went out from the boundaries. And since then, there is no boundaries that you can put the Hebrew nation. Always they are winning all the boundaries. The old Greeks, the old Romans, the old Egyptians, the old Persians, the old whatever you want. Always they're managing to not be inside those boundaries and to go out from them and to renew themselves. It's some sort of I will say, a DNA in the Hebrew nation. And it didn't happen to one person. It happened to a nation. The nation of the Hebrew nation could be in a Holocaust that's for 6 million people to kill in few years, in three years, even less than 3 years, okay, a year and a half. And 3 years after that, to build up a nation that will be a startup nation. Where do you find something like that, in the history? Maybe you can find something like that, but it will take, between the time of being demolished and being in the Holocaust, okay, and being killed, God forbid, to anyone, and the time that they will build up a new nation, it will be, 100 years, 200 years, maybe even 300 years, okay? But 2.5 years after the Holocaust, that 40,000 people a day were being killed and being burned, in the crematoriums in Auschwitz. 2.5 years after that, they're building up a state. It's only the Hebrew nation along history have this renewal as a nation, not as a one person. It's a divine, I will say, presence inside us. It's something else from all of the promises that we speak in other places. And there might be even millions of people more than us. The evangelists are millions of people more than us. And they admire us. The evangelists, they admire the Hebrew nation. We know that.
Right. Yeah, and the Torah itself, I think, instituted an idea of jurisprudence in law that didn't exist prior. I mean, I've done a lot of study in history, and most people have difficulty putting themselves into the scene of how it really was, especially going back hundreds or thousands of years. And just the whole different order. I really appreciate you bringing that point home. I see we have Rabbi Hirschler with us.
Just a moment before Rabbi Hirschler was say a few words.
Fascinating.
Rabbi Hirschler, just one more point, okay?
No problem, man.
לא, שנייה, אני אתן לך דבר, שנייה. Just a moment. I will say another thing. You ask about the miracles about. You asked me about miracles in other, I will say, religions, Hindu, places, whatever it is. God, there is some sort of a spirituality that is running here in this world. Okay? God presence is in this world. Okay, sometimes God is doing those things as a test for those people, or as something that they want to believe in this. He's helping them to believe in nonsense. Okay, it's something that is happening. This is something that maybe we need to open it one day to explain it. It's also in the Masechet Avodah Zarah that we have. It's we have a few things about this, but it is there are miracles. There are things that more spiritual than the world. In the India area, the spirituality of the personal, in the personal level, is very high. Fair enough. Some of this is also with a lot of idolatry. We also need to know that. Okay. We have this and we have that. So we need also to know that. And part of the idolatry, and that it's working, is to give the men really freedom of choice. Because if there will be only one way that is working, so there won't be freedom of choice. We won't have the possibility of deciding where we're going. Think about this.
Yes, and I'm to follow up just some of the messages beautifully addressed by Rabbi Goldberg. It indeed is a phenomenon about how the Jewish people emerged and rebuilt itself in recent years. But given that at this time of the year also, historically, we also remind ourselves of the destruction of the temple, it's quite fascinating that according to many of the traditions, the beginning of the revival was actually at the time of the destruction itself. meaning at the moment where God expressed his anger, which led to the destruction of the temple, on that very same day, the new potential redemption develops. And it's something which is interesting because it happens, the Hebrew word for the word crisis is mashber, but the word mashber in Hebrew has another connotation besides crisis. As some of the ladies would know, there used to be a chair where a woman was about to have a baby. She would sit on there while she was towards a period of labor as the delivery was about to take place. And they would use it until she'd actually conceive. And to a certain extent, that crisis is the beginning of new life. She has to go through extreme pains as the change is about to occur. It's true on a private level, and it can also very well be true on a national level. Part of those trials and tribulations that the rabbi discussed about the 40s of the 20th century, where a third of the Jewish people were wiped out, that was indeed part of the rebuilding itself. And a crisis very often leads to something new, even in the current situation, which I heard a little bit what the rabbi had mentioned. I was also on a journey till now. This thing also comes up that way. We don't always know, and I certainly can't claim to know what is going to develop, but my gut feeling is that in times that we actually encounter trials and tribulations, those are usually the times of growth. At times where things are like, take an example from youth and adolescence. One of the famous scholars said, when you have a 14-month-old baby, everybody loves to cuddle them and to hug them. When the person's 14 years old, you treat them a little bit different. Although the person's 14 years old, the girl or boy, are far more intelligent than a 14-month-old baby. Yet to cuddle a baby that's a year and 2 months, something which is a pleasure. When you're dealing with an adolescent, it could be a little bit childish and could be a bit misbehaving and mischief and all that. It's a different challenge, but you're talking about somebody who's far more intelligent and wise. Yes, we undergo times of crisis and difficulty, but it seems like from those events, we always develop. And I can even say I've been living in Israel. We moved from America 50 years ago, half a century ago. Just thinking about how many battles we have gone through during these 5 decades, at least 6 military conflicts during the course of this period alone. How much development, thought, growth, encounter when you actually have to go through this. Even the United States, many say that the first modern development of the United States was as a result of the Civil War, which went on for over more than 4 years. Not to give any justifiability to that terrible event, but it actually made the American people a lot more they grew up, and the country started to develop a much more type of thinking and how to deal with the evil of slavery and how to deal with racism. Many questions that were raised in a time of crisis brought to a lot of more intelligent thinking and more developed insight. Some of the greatest writers that we had in the 19th century, I personally feel that way, the greatest literary was in Russia. And talking about in the time of the end of the Tsars and the early communist period. Not because it's a country that I particularly like, but the political system there has been corrupt for so many centuries that people that wanted to express themselves and to develop freedom did it through writing. As a result, some of the greatest authors that we have originate from there because that's the way people were able to express their need for freedom, their need for intelligence and moral values. I'd like to wish all of you this coming week and in general that with all the difficulties that we encounter now around the world, that we won't lose for any given moment the true moral teachings that we believe in. Certainly in the case of the Jewish people, the times of destruction and Holocaust and other war events brought us to major challenges of morality, which I think we try at the best more than anybody in the world. Just think about How many soldiers have endangered their life to try to save bodies of people, not only people living, just to give them their dignity, that they'll be buried in a reasonable way. And not even getting to the debate how much they should, but that decency and understanding that we have to respect every single individual, whoever it is, a hostage, a soldier, whatever, to try to give them life or to try to respect their dignity is something which is a very high level of ethical standard, something that originates very strong for the Torah moral teaching. Thank you. If you have any points and comments about that, you're more than welcome.
Thank you very much. If there are any more questions or something, to Rabbi Hirschler, for me, whatever it is, it's okay.
Rabbi, there was a few questions in the chat. One from Martina. She said, can you explain a little bit between Emunah and Bitachon? Michael had asked, what's the second essay about? And Nathan had asked an important question. What is the Noahides' role in spreading the Torah?
I think about Emunah and Bitachon. Rabbi Hirschler, do you want to say a few words about Emunah and Bitachon?
I'll put it in one simple way. As an example, a person stands in the middle of a major highway and their car is driving from both sides, there's a train going by, and a person's going to say, well, since I believe in God, nothing's going to happen to me, and I can trust that everything is safe. That's simply committing suicide. That's not showing faith in God. What is true is that what happens as a world development, as a phenomenon, may be part of an overall God planning that we don't necessarily know the background, why a certain event occurred, and what were the ramifications in the long run of what actually occurred. One of the biggest debates in the United States 60 years ago, who was behind the assassination of Kennedy. But one thing is definitely true, and that is that if Kennedy would have remained in office in 1964, that is less than a year after he was assassinated, less than a year, he would have been reelected for sure, being one of the most handsome and popular presidents at the time. And he strongly objected for Israel to have any settlements beyond what's called the Green Line. I don't know. The person who wanted to get rid of him had nothing to do with this whatsoever. But Lyndon B. Johnson at that time was extremely involved in the Vietnam War when he became, instead of being vice president, became the president. As a result, in 1967, when Israel returned to the biblical boundaries as mentioned, he did not insist that we would leave. And as a result, the Israeli boundaries till this very day have been blessed. So I don't know if God indirectly got involved, but it's an amazing thing that some people out of hatred to one person caused God in a different way completely to make changes in the entire world. In the year 2000, on June 10th, 2000, the president of Syria died of cancer, exactly 33 years after the Golan Heights had returned to Israel, 33 years day to day exactly. And 5 months before the Syrian president died, there was an offer to leave the Golan Heights completely and to make Israel virtually the boundary with Tiberias. In the year 2015, ISIS took over Syria, which would mean that if Israel would have left the Golan Heights, then ISIS would have been half an hour away from Tiberias. I don't know if you know the geography of the Middle East, but if you think about Emunah and Bitachon, so on the one hand, we have faith in God that He will, whenever we do positive acts, eventually we will be responded. And there's a general protection that God gives to His people, but it's by no means a guarantee. Everything we do, we have to do what is right and ethically correct. And in general, things that happen in the world, very often, only years later, we understand how God had protected us in almost irrational ways. In the Gulf War in 1991, 39 Scuds killed one person, and even not directly from the Scud. And one Scud that hit the American troops in Saudi Arabia took the lives of 39 people. So I don't know what exactly that means, but it definitely shows that God has that sense of protection, at least towards the Jewish people as a nation. We can't take that for granted. Never we can take it for granted. We can see in retroactive that God is there to assist us. That I can say in brief. Can't hear you. What?
Thank you very much. Yes.
Oh, sure. Dan, is there anything else there? No?
Now, the question about what is the Noachai, the rule in spreading the Torah, I will continue on to the next thing. I think that it's more important to behave in the right way. And if you also have the opportunity of speaking and teaching the Torah in the right way, it's also good. But much more important is that when someone will see you, each one of them, they will say, he is behaving in a very dignity and right way. I want to be close to him. What is the way that who is guiding him, or what is guiding him that he will behave in this way? And when they're getting close to you, they're starting to realize that it's related with the Torah. And this is a way of bringing people close to Torah. Not only by preaching all the time, learn the Torah. No. You can, when you invite people to your home and you're sitting and speaking about things, whatever it is, on Shabbat, you can also speak about, ideas from the Torah. But the best way of spreading the Torah is by the right behavior in the way of Torah.
That's a great answer. Thanks, Rabbi.
Okay.
Excellent. Yeah. Be the real deal. Don't just think it, but live it. For sure. Does anybody else, before we wind it down for the day, does anybody else have any questions for the rabbis in the group? I see we got a good group with us. Always a joy.
Fair enough. It's okay. So I'm urging again. I'm asking again. Okay, if it's okay. To
Right.
Take on yourself to write some sort of a summary and about ideas that were new for you, about your feeling, what was good. And you can also give us, if you want to give us some sort of things that we need to improve, it's also very good. The only way of getting, I will tell you a secret.
Better, yeah.
We learn from our mistakes. We're not learning from our good things that we do. So feel comfortable also to send us, notes and things. You have the email of Tiferet with a memorable thing, and you have my email. Feel comfortable. We will send you also emails, and we will answer. We will discuss things with people that will send us their ideas. I don't want to say what will be the next thing that we're going to learn, because it's not going to be a very long one. It's going to be a short one because of the holidays. So we'll speak about this also later on.
Okay.
And
so
thank you very much.
We're taking 3 weeks off for sure. 3 weeks, and we're aiming 4 weeks from today, hopefully. Hashem willing. Yes. So Rabbi will keep us informed, and he's asking us to take the time out of our very busy schedules to write out a page or so on what you benefited from the 12 lessons of this Kuzari series. It's just chock full of all kinds of detail. But to be honest, Rabbi, I mean, I'm a fairly intelligent fellow, and I've gone through this material several times, and even reading it as a B'nai Noach, we don't seem to pull out the great things that is passed on in the Hebrew tradition the same way. People come at things from their own unique perspective, and I think it's a very, very necessary study for sure for people to get the overview. I mean, I've had some comments on YouTube how it helped the Kuzari allowed somebody here to understand the basics of the Jewish faith, and especially why their beliefs were erroneous. Hashem speaks with man and his guide, but among the nations we are taught the opposite. And yeah, so often we out here in the nations have incorrect views that it's so hard to just, it's not like a blackboard where you can just wipe the slate clean. When thoughts get into your mind, they have to be rooted out with correct thoughts and almost overwritten with a higher reality before people understand it. And it's never easy. But like you said, study and put it into practice. Study and put it into practice. And it's a joy to come together as a group. It's good to see the surge of people that have joined in this series and participated. And I've had the pleasure of being Chavruta partners with Jacob, and it's been a joy to get to know him a little bit and hear his insights on certain topics. And, you know, it's all about how you interact, and hopefully people break out of their shells and become a more productive member of their societies, and in turn that makes the world a better place. It all begins with one little action, and you get those joyful thoughts that change your outlook, and you can put it into play somewhere in your sphere of influence. And yeah, it's exciting. So
Fair enough. Okay, thank you very much, Dan, also for everything that you do with all of the things around. And see you all. Have a great week.
Somebody else has to shut the Zoom meeting off because I don't have host capabilities. So on that note, we're going to sign out. We will be back in hopefully 4 weeks. So we're taking a 3-week break from our Live from Jerusalem class with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg. So please keep an eye out for notifications, and we'll go from there. So till next time, have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.